Morning, everybody. Apologies for the small, short, late start. We have several committees going and several people moving in several different directions at the same time. So we might have to go at ease a couple times this morning. But before we get started, I wanted to give a special introduction and a round of applause for some special guests from Augusta County, Waynesboro, and Stanton, the amazing members of the Model General Assembly team. If they could all stand up and be recognized. Thank you for being here today, and we look forward to many of you joining us in the next few years. Before we begin, we just want to, we have the reports from the subcommittees. We've got two bills in full committee, and before we get started, I'd like it if each of the subcommittee chairs could just go through the uncontested dockets while we wait for the other folks to come from the other committees. Let's get started with, let's go first to Delegate Tran on the Natural Resource Subcommittee report.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Before you is House Bill 199. This bill removes the prohibition on the allocation of funds to the Virginia Brownfield and Coal Mine Renewable Energy Grant Fund and Program unless federal funds are available in an amount that would cover the entire cost of the allocation. The subcommittee recommended reporting unanimously by a vote of 10-0, and I so move.
Second.
All right, let's go to the voting board. Moved and properly seconded. All right, by a vote of 19-0, the bill is reported. Next bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before us is House Bill 316, which establishes the Virginia Recycling Development Center for the purposes of furthering the development of markets and processing for recycled commodities and products, to be run by a director appointed and supervised by the Secretary of Natural and Historic Resources. The subcommittee recommended reporting with substitutes. I move the committee substitute.
Do we have a vote? All right, so moved. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. The subcommittee recommended reporting the substitute and referring to the Committee on Appropriations by a vote of 10-0, and I so move.
Second.
All right, the bill's been moved and properly seconded. Let's go to the board. All right, next bill.
Mr. Chairman, before us is House Bill 745. It would prohibit, establishes a mattress stewardship program, and the subcommittee recommended continuing this bill to 2025. And I so move.
All right, that is a voice vote. It's been moved. Is there a proper second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, the bill has been continued. Hold on for 1 second. Madam Chair, could you move the committee substitute before we move forward with that?
The committee substitute.
Was there a committee substitute on that?
I don't have that in my notes because we just continued it to 2025.
I understand that. I thought there was an intention, I think, to move the language that had been worked out in committee first. If that's not the case, we can just work it over in the off season. All right.
Yes, I think so.
The bills continue to 2025. Next bill.
We have one more bill that reported out unanimously, and that bill is House Bill 1186 provides that the Department of Conservation and Recreation shall establish a 2-year pilot program between October 1, 2024 and October 30th, 2026 to enhance accessibility for individuals with limited mobility in Virginia state parks by providing all-terrain power wheelchairs that may be used by these individuals during their visits. And we have a committee substitute that I'd like to move.
Second.
The bill's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Mr. Chair, for this bill, the subcommittee recommends reporting the substitute and referring to appropriations by vote of 10-0, and I so move.
All right. The bill's been motioned before us. Let's go to the board. All right, we, by a vote of 20 to nothing, we are reporting and referring the bill to appropriations. All right, those are all of the uncontested bills out of your subcommittee, correct?
Yes, thank you, Mr.
We'll
Chair.
come back to your committee in a moment. Let's move now to the Agriculture Subcommittee. Delegate Helmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First before us is House Bill 9, Animal Control Officers Additional Training, which sought to increase the number of hours of required additional training for animal control officers. The subcommittee recommended continuing it to 2025, and I so move.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, here are the bills before us.
All right. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, second before us is House Bill 892 by Delegate Bulova, Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, Department of Forestry, Office of Farmland Preservation transferred. It takes the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services to the Department of Forestry, Office of Farmland Preservation, moves its powers and duties and reporting requirements, and the subcommittee recommended reporting it with as amended 10-0 and referring it to the Committee on Appropriations, and I so move.
Second.
All right, bill's been moved and seconded. Let's go to the board. All right, by a vote of 21 to nothing, the bill is reported and referred with amendments to appropriations.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. House Bill 1354 by Delegate Martinez is about declawing cats, prohibition, and civil.
Well, Delegate, could we first do the uncontested bills? Or is that the only uncontested bill? I apologize. Never mind. Continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 1354 about declawing cats with a prohibition and civil penalty, which makes unlawful the practice of declawing cats for therapeutic purposes. The subcommittee recommended reporting with a substitute on a vote of 8-2, and I so move.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Let's go to the board. All right, by a vote of 12 to 9, the bill is reported with substitute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Next before us is House Bill 1377 by Delegate Weber, Soybean Board assessment from the sale of soybeans, which changes the amount of the assessment for research, education, publicity, and the promotion of the sale and use of soybeans, which is currently at 2 cents per bushel and sets it at a rate of 1/2% of the net market price per bushel. The subcommittee recommended reporting it on a vote of 10-0, and I so move.
Second.
All right, this has been moved and seconded. Let's go to the electronic voting board. All right, by a vote of 22 to nothing, the bill is reported to committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next before us is House Bill 1460, also by Delegate Weber, Virginia Verified Meat Certification, which provides a way in which to certify meat as being Virginia verified. The subcommittee recommended reporting it with amendments 10-0 and referring to the Committee on Appropriations, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Let's go to the electronic voting board. All right, by 22 yeses, no votes, the bill is reported and referred with amendments to appropriations.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to skip one and come back just because I know we got some work to do on that. House Bill 1531 is the next bill before us by Delegate Tran. It prevents cruelty to elephants using pain-inflicting training tools, including bull hooks, axe handles, or block and tackle. The subcommittee recommended reporting this on a vote of 7-3, and I so move.
Second.
Delegate Orrock.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, my question of the patron, since I was not in the subcommittee. Mr. Chairman, if I may, just curious, all other animal cruelty sections, we typically make them a true crime with Class 1 misdemeanor for a first offense and a Class 6 felony. Notice this measure, it's a civil penalty. Was there a rationale why we're just making this a civil action versus a criminal action?
Delegate Tran.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I would respond to the delegate by saying in consulting with our stakeholders, we felt that this was the best path forward for this particular bill this year. If he would like to make it a felony, I think that might be a good bill for next year.
Thank you. Any additional questions, Delegate Ora? All right, we have the bill has been moved and seconded. Let's go to the board. All right, by a vote of 14-8, the bill is reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Finally, before us is HB 1466, and I will, with the permission of the chair, turn it over to the patron to present some updates on this bill. Delegate Block.
Delegate Bloxham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chairman Helmer. This bill, the purpose of this bill is to incentivize farmers to use surface water for irrigation instead of well water. When I first brought it forward, it was for Planning District 22. Farm Bureau actually liked the idea, and so now the new substitute, which I need to move, I think it's online already. If I could move the substitute, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, the new substitute's before us.
So with the substitute, it makes it statewide, and when you come down to what we're trying to do is to give a farmer an exemption from mines and minerals to construct one time a farm pond for agricultural irrigation or for providing water for livestock. And it also creates an avenue for them to get rid of the soil and the sand that's dug out of the pond, which is the problem right now. This is a one-time activity on a parcel of land. The project needs to be completed within 6 months. We're still making sure that this language, we just came to an agreement last night between Chesapeake Bay Foundation, Farm Bureau, and the Department of Energy. With this language, I think this is what we're going to be carrying forward, but I do reserve the right, hopefully, that if I need to change it one more time, that you'll indulge me.
Oh, the indulgence will be out. Okay.
And that's basically the bill, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any comments or questions from members of the committee? We have talked about each of these bills in earnest and with robust discussions. Oh, Delegate Runyon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question of the patron. Did you say this would be a one-time exercise?
Delegate Runyon, please speak through the chair. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, the question is this a one-time activity? I believe that was stated, or can I build additional ponds as the need would be required?
Delegate Bloxham.
I would reply to the delegate. The problem that you have with the full exemption is they could become a mining operation for sand. So when NRCS designs the pond and the size of the pond, it should allow for an inch of irrigation across the field. Now, if you buy another parcel adjacent to that one, our interpretation, and I think staff's interpretation, is they would be allowed another exemption to make the pond bigger so the water fits the area that they're trying to irrigate.
Follow-up question,
Follow-up
Mr.
question,
Chair.
Delegate Runyon.
So I guess I'm still confused. If my farming operation changes but my land mass doesn't change, would I be precluded from ever changing, either building an additional pond or expanding the pond that I have? Is this a one-time forever type activity?
Delegate Bloxham.
I would answer the delegate. I would think that it probably is. And I would also answer the delegate that I feel fortunate to get a one-time exemption from the mines and minerals regulations. They could always go to mines and minerals and apply to be a sand mining operation and then commence to building the pond. But this is designed to try to incentivize the farmer to use surface water instead of well water. And there are some people that we've been working with that might be able to answer that question maybe a little more thoroughly.
Thank you, Delegate Bloxham. Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? That's good advice. Is there anyone from the audience who'd like to speak in favor of the bill or has been a part of the process and would like to show support for the bill?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Martha Moore, Virginia Farm Bureau. We certainly do appreciate the patron bringing this bill forward to correct an issue that occurred on the Eastern Shore and make it statewide, and we are in support of it. And as he said, we may have to tweak the language just a little bit, but I believe that to Delegate Runyon's question, you can build the pond, then you can expand it. Those are two separate activities.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Ford.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Jay Ford, Chesapeake Bay Foundation. We want to thank Delegate Bloxham and the folks at Farm Bureau for working with us on this to tighten this up to make sure it did not become a loophole for sand mining. But we would agree with Martha's interpretation that this does allow some flexibility for expansion and a one-time expansion within a set temporal parameter of 6 months. And that way, we can get at exactly what the delegate is addressing, which is when you might need to expand these ponds so you won't be limited and required to get a mining permit. So thank you to everyone for working with us on this.
Thank you. Is anyone in opposition to the new language, the new substitute language that's before us? All right. Any additional questions or comments from the members of the committee? All right. Committee operates by motion.
Move to report. Second.
Move to report as substituted with a second all before us properly. Let's go to the electronic voting board. All right, by a vote of 20-2, the bill is reported with substitute. Oh, Delegate Tran.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to, having voted on the prevailing side to carry over House Bill 745, I'd like to reconsider that motion.
Yes, there's a motion before us. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Mr. Chair, I believe that the patron does have a substitute, and I would like for us to be able to have the substitute properly before us so that that substitute can be carried over to 2025.
Delegate Tran, this is HB 754, the Mattress Stewardship Program.
745, sir?
745, yes.
Yes.
All right, the Mattress Stewardship Program. All right.
Move to substitute.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, the new substitutes before us.
And Mr. Chair, I'd like to motion to carry this bill as substituted over to 2025.
Second.
That's the voice vote. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of carrying this bill over to 2025, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, bill is carried over. All right, so can we return to the Natural Resources Subcommittee for just to complete all the bills that were on Chairwoman Tran's docket?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. We will return to the Natural Resources Subcommittee report for the contested bills. House Bill 420 is now before us. This bill authorizes the governor to provide funding and execute necessary agreements to allow the temporary operation of any Virginia property controlled by the National Park Service in the event of a federal government shutdown. The subcommittee recommends reporting this bill by a vote of 9-1.
And is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. I was the one, so I wasn't sure if I was able to move it. But thank you to my colleagues.
All right. So the bill has been moved and seconded. Let's go to any questions or comments? If not, let's go to the electronic voting board. All right. By a vote of 19-2, the vote is the bill is reported.
Mr. Chairman, next before us is House Bill 968. This bill creates the Virginia Green Infrastructure Bank, an authority to promote and catalyze investment in qualified projects that reduce greenhouse gas emissions, assist climate-impacted communities, and promote environmental justice. There was a substitute in committee, but we would like to reject that substitute so that we can consider a substitute, a new one in full committee.
There's a motion to reject the substitute and accept the new substitute?
Yes, sir.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. All those opposed? The new substitute's before us. I can speak to the substitute if you'd like.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
So, Madam Chair, just by way of background, we have continued to conform the language of HB 968 to Senator Serval's bill on the Senate side. We've simply removed and changed some definitions. However, we do have one amendment that we've added to, that we've brought back into the bill, which is keeping 2 additional appointed members, one from the House and one from the Senate, for the board. So it's now 11 members on the board, not 9. Delegate Helmer.
Mr. Chair, a delegate question for the patron, which is this going to affect the proportionality?
No. Well, yes. It's no. It's right now. It's 9 people, 9 individuals appointed by the governor or administration agencies, and we'll have 2 additional. So it's 11 members, not 9 members.
Mr. Chair, quick follow-up question just to make sure I understand. So,
Yes.
in my understanding is in the past we would have had 2 House members and 1 Senate member.
Quick moment. Considering our long history of this issue with the Senate, I would actually accept a friendly amendment to change line 63 or 62 and 63 of the substitute to state that there should be 2 House members and 1 Senate member, 2 individuals appointed by the House and 1 individual appointed by the Senate.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of that line amendment? Aye. All those opposed? All right, the new language and the amended substitutes before us.
Mr. Chair, the subcommittee recommended reporting the original substitute by vote of 6 to 4 and referring this bill to the Committee on Appropriations, and I so move.
All right, bills have been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions from the committee? If not, let's go to the electronic voting board.
So moves.
Oh,
The new substitute.
she's moved the new substitute, right. All right, by a vote of 12 to 10, the bill is reported and referred with substitute and language to appropriations. Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. House Bill 985 is before us. This bill prohibits the sale or distribution of any pavement sealant that contains polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbon concentrations greater than 1% by weight on or after July 1, 2024, except that a retailer may continue to sell any existing inventory that remains in stock on that date. And the bill also prohibits the application or use of these sealants on or after July 1, 2025. There's also a civil penalty of $250 for any person who violates either prohibition. The subcommittee recommends reporting this bill by a vote of 9 to 1, and I so move.
We have moved and seconded. Any comments or questions from the committee? All right, let's go to the electronic voting board. Has everyone voted? All right, by a vote of 17 to 5, the bill is reported. Next bill?
Next bill, we have House Bill 999 by Delegate Anthony. This bill makes it unlawful for a person to attempt to take, or pursue wildlife within the Indian River from its confluence with the eastern branch of the Elizabeth River to its southern terminus at Military Highway in the city of Chesapeake, except that fishing is permitted in this area. The subcommittee recommended reporting this bill by a vote of 7 to 3, and I so move.
Second.
All right, properly moved and seconded. Any comments or questions from the committee?
Did we adopt the substitute?
There is no substitute on this. All right, let's go to the electronic voting board. Has everyone voted? All right, by a vote of 12 to 10, the bill is reported. Next bill.
Mr. Chair, we have House Bill 1000, which establishes the Environmental Justice Task Force for the purpose of furthering environmental justice in the Commonwealth, and it lays out the roles and responsibilities of the task force. There was a committee substitute that I would like to move, please.
Second.
Moved and seconded. The committee substitute, L is in favor of the substitute. Please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Substitutes before us.
The subcommittee recommended reporting with substitute by vote of 8-2. However, I've received notice that because this bill establishes a new task force, that it needs to be referred to the Rules Committee. And I sadly make that motion now.
All right. So the bill would be reported. Oh, Delegate Ware, you have a question?
No, just an observation from subcommittee conversation.
Delegate Ware.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would note when this bill came up, I asked the question if the circumstance arose that a poor community or a community that was facing challenges financially had the circumstance where they might have imposed on them a solar farm against the wishes of the locality. Might that be considered in the task force? Both the patron and one of the advocates gave a very strong affirmative answer to that question. Thus, I was willing to vote yes on this measure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Delegate Ware. Delegate Chairwoman Tran.
Yes, Mr. Chair. As I mentioned, if we can, because it establishes a new task force, I'd like to motion that we gently transfer this bill over to the Committee on Rules.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to move the bill to refer to the Rules Committee, or report and refer to the Rules Committee with the substitute. Any comments or questions from the committee? All right, let's go to the electronic voting board. Has everyone voted? Yes. So by a vote of 20-2, the bill is reported and referred with substitute to the Rules Committee.
Mr. Chair, our last bill that was contested that we heard on our long docket was House Bill 1002. This bill requires the Department of Energy's Division of Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency to identify and monitor any federal grant programs, loan programs, or other opportunities for federal funding to further the Commonwealth's energy efficiency goals. I would like to move the subcommittee amendments.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of accepting the amendments, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Amendments are before us.
And the subcommittee recommends reporting with amendments by vote of 9-1, and I so move.
Second.
All right, the bill has been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions from the committee? All right, let's go to the electronic voting board. All right, by a vote of 19-2, the bill is reported with amendments. All right. Before we go to the Chesapeake Subcommittee, Delegate Chairman Helmer, is there another bill, HB 9, in your committee?
I thought we would move to continue it, but,
All right.
Mr. Chair, but
All right.
do we need to do it again?
No, that's all right. I think
right.
we've done it already.
We can keep continuing it, Mr. Chair.
Continue. All right, for our last subcommittee, before we do the two bills that are before full, Chairman Helmer and the Chesapeake Sub.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the report of the Chesapeake Sub, our first bill is House Bill 673, Delegate Fagans. There's an amendment to the bill, and I'd move the amendment.
So second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of accepting the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill modifies the criteria for awarding grants from the Resilient Virginia Revolving Loan Fund by adding additional weight to be provided for projects in low-income geographic areas and to projects that incorporate nature-based design. This mirrors the structure and criteria already in place for the Virginia Community Flood Preparedness Fund. The subcommittee recommended reporting with amendments 6-4, and I so move.
Second. All right, moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from the committee? Let's go to the electronic voting board. All right, by a vote of 14 to 8, the bill is reported with amendments.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 948 from Chairman Lopez. This bill would codify the public input and transparency process for the Virginia Community Flood Preparedness Fund. The concept in this bill is similar to and included as part of Delegate Hernandez's House Bill 1458. As such, the subcommittee recommended incorporating HB 948 into HB 1458, and I would so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. This is a voice vote. All of those in favor of incorporating this amazing bill into Delegate Hernandez's bill, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the bill is incorporated.
All right. The only thing that could be more amazing than that bill, Chairman Lopez, is the next bill, also from Chairman Lopez, House Bill 949. There's a substitute, and I would move the substitute.
Second.
All those it's moved and seconded. All those in favor of accepting the substitute, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, substitutes before us.
All right, thank you, Chairman Lopez. This bill provides that any person required to submit a facility response plan pursuant to the EPA's Clean Water Act hazardous substance worst case discharge planning regulations must submit evidence of an EPA-approved facility response plan to the Department of Environmental Quality within 30 days of approval by EPA. For facilities covered by the EPA regulations, the bill requires reporting of applicable hazardous substance discharges to DEQ and establishes specific record-keeping requirements. The bill also includes enforcement authority by DEQ for negligent discharges or failure to implement the EPA-approved plan. Mr. Chairman, the subcommittee recommended reporting with substitute on a 9-to-1 basis and referring to appropriations, and I so move.
Second.
Bill has been moved and seconded to report and refer with sub to appropriations. All right, let's go to the, any comments or questions? If not, let's go to the electronic voting board. Has everyone voted who wants to vote? All right, by a vote of 20 to 1, the bill is reported and referred with substitute to appropriations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All downhill from there. House Bill 1403, Delegate Lawfer. This bill reduces, no, nothing personal,
That's
Delegate
just
Lawfer. This bill reduces the project match for projects under the Dam Safety, Flood Prevention, and Protection Assistance Fund. As noted by DCR in the subcommittee, while there's a great deal of need, the program is actually not being fully subscribed due to the high match requirements. The intent of the bill is to ensure that the money is spent on dam safety projects. The subcommittee recommended reporting on a 10-to-0 basis, and I so move.
Second.
All right, the bill is reported, or has been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions from the committee? All right, let's go to the electronic voting board. All right, by a vote of 21 to nothing, the bill is reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next bill is House Bill 1406, Delegate Fowler. There are amendments, and I would move the amendments.
Moved and seconded. The amendments before, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Amendments are before us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As amended, this bill increases from 3 to 6 the maximum number of days that the Board of Wildlife Resources and the Virginia Marine Fisheries Commission may designate as free fishing days. In reality, this would allow for 2 long weekends per year for both fresh and saltwater fishing, and was described in the subcommittee. This is a way to get people familiar with our parks and is anticipated to be at least revenue neutral, if not actually add to our revenue by getting more people out to fish and use our outdoors. The subcommittee recommended reporting with substitute 8-to-2, and I would so move.
So we moved the amendments. Can we actually move the substitute before? I'd like to make a motion to move the substitute.
Oh, yeah, move the substitute, Mr. Chairman.
So the substitute's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the substitute's before us, and you had a motion.
All right, I recommend reporting the substitute 8-to-2, and I so moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions from the committee? All right, let's go to the electronic voting board. All right, by a vote of 19-2, the bill is reported with substitute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next bill is House Bill 1434, Delegate Hodges. This bill has a substitute, and I would so move the substitute.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of the substitute say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, substitutes before us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill authorizes the Department of Forestry to grant and convey a tract of land known as Sandy Point to the Mattaponi Indian Tribe following discussions between the department and the Mattaponi regarding public access and conservation issues. Final conveyance will be based upon terms and conditions determined proper by the department with the approval of the Secretary of Administration. The subcommittee recommended reporting the substitute on an 8-2 basis, and I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded to recommend reporting with substitutes. All right, any comments or questions? If not, let's go to the electronic voting board. All right, by a vote of 18-3. Oh, I have not voted. There we go. By a vote of 19-3, the bill is reported with substitute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next bill is House Bill 1449, Delegate Batten. This bill updates outdated references in the code by changing the Coastal Policy Center at the William and Mary Law School or School of Law to the Virginia Coastal Resilience Collaborative at the College of William and Mary in Virginia. The subcommittee recommended reporting 10-0, and I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments or questions from the committee? All right, let's go to the electronic voting board. All right, by a vote of 22-0, the bill is reported.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 1458, Delegate Hernandez. This bill has a substitute, and I would so move the substitute.
Second.
Moved and seconded with the substitute. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, substitutes before us.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill moves the position of Chief Resilience Officer from under the Secretary of Natural and Historic Resources to under the Governor and creates an Office of Commonwealth Resilience to support the Chief Resilience Officer in his functions and duties. In addition, the bill does the following. It requires the CRO to convene an interagency resilience work group to support the planning and implementation of resilience efforts, eliminates the position of the Special Assistant to the Governor for Coastal Adaptation and Protection, and requires the Director of the Department of Conservation and Recreation to convene advisory review committees to assist in the distribution of loans and grants from the Virginia Community Flood Preparedness Fund and the Resilient Virginia Revolving Loan Fund. The subcommittee recommended reporting the substitute on a 10-0 basis, and I so move.
All right. First off, do we have any questions or comments from the committee? Delegate Helmer.
I do, Mr. Chair. A question for the chair. Does this bill have a study or a work group in it? I was just looking through the bill text, and it looks like we may be pulling some together.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I don't believe that there's no study. There are existing advisory review committees as well as groups to help provide input into the grants and loans. Those are existing functions that are just being consolidated.
Right, and this is also the product of a series of meetings and task forces that brought these recommendations together.
Just to clarify that, Mr. Chair, there is not a new work group
No.
per se grouping.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Delegate Bloxham.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I was just going to say the same thing. This is a product of about 3 years' worth of collaboration.
Yes, that's actually been an amazing process. And so if there was a motion and a seconded to report whether the substitutes, any comment? All right, with that, let's go to the electronic voting board. Excellent. By a vote of 22-0, the bill is reported with substitute.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Our last bill is House Bill 1520, Delegate Kent. This bill would direct the Virginia Institute of Marine Science to review the feasibility of studying cumulative impacts of surface water intakes on aquatic fauna and water quality in Virginia's rivers and the Chesapeake Bay. In lieu of a bill, the subcommittee recommended continuing to 2025 with a letter to VIMS requesting that they determine the cost and scope of any study so that it can be introduced in the 2025 session, and I would so move.
Second.
All right, the bill is, the bill has been moved and seconded to continue to 2025. That is a voice vote. All those or any comments or questions from the committee? All right, all those in favor of continuing this bill until 2025, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the ayes have it, and this bill is continued to 2025. So we have two bills before us. If we could have Delegate Lovejoy, please present your bill. HB 1379.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I have an amendment in the nature of a substitute.
All right, the attorneys can put that up on the. So we have it's moved and seconded.
Mr. Chairman.
For the substitute. Yes, Delegate Ora.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, given that it hadn't been put out yet and the folks in the audience haven't seen it, could he just briefly explain the differences between
I was
the
going to ask him to do that, but thank you. First off, would you like the attorney or would you like to do it yourself, explain the substitute?
Mr. Chair, the initial draft, so it had various reports for DEQ. Each of those sections where the reports were mentioned, we just updated the date in each of those sections, but the substitute creates one new section that says notwithstanding the dates in those sections, and it lays out the new due date for those reports. So instead of having many different sections amended, one new section to say notwithstanding the dates in those sections, they're due this year, this year, this year, as you can see online.
Could you give us the dates?
Mr. Chair, there's many different reports, but in subsection B, it just says the department for all of these reports shall be deemed to have satisfied the reporting requirements of those sections by submitting the consolidated report to the Governor and General Assembly no later than October 1 of each year. In subsection C, for various reports, they shall be included each year as well, but in even numbers, subsection D, there's 3 reports that are just going to be submitted in even numbers. Subsection E, those reports are going to be in odd numbered years as well, and including the annual reports.
Delegate Bloxham?
Yep, Mr. Chairman, a question for the patron.
Yes, Delegate Bloxham.
Is this bill part of the DEQ streamlining process that we've been going through for the last couple of years?
It is.
Thank you.
Delegate Bulova.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to just confirm with you and/or council that this is a way to make the reporting process a little bit more efficient, and so we have kind of a one-stop shop for all of this stuff. I know we require a lot of reporting out of DEQ. It's got a lot of very valuable information, but it also takes a lot of work. And so is that my understanding, and can you confirm that we actually haven't lost or gotten rid of any of the reporting requirements?
Absolutely. The bill does not eliminate or change the substance of any reporting requirements in the code, and it does not change the reporting frequency of any reporting requirements in the code. It is just to streamline the multitude of reports into one singular report for more easy production and consumption by the public.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
All right. Would you like to present your bill? Oh, actually, hold on. We haven't passed the substitute. Yeah. All those? Substitute's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the substitute, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, substitute's before us. Present your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Just reiterating the points that have already been brought forward this morning. This bill consolidates 15 DEQ reports to the General Assembly into one annual comprehensive report due to the General Assembly each year on October 1st. Again, it does not eliminate or change anything substantive about the reporting process. The single report will be more transparent, convenient, and digestible for members of the public. I could go on, but I think we've hit the high notes.
Move to report.
Anyone here to speak in favor of the bill? Just 1 minute.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Brandon Bull, Policy Director at the Department of Environmental Quality. We just want to thank Delegate Lovejoy for carrying this on our behalf and working with us through the process. Happy to answer any technical questions if there are any.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, Jay Ford, Chesapeake Bay Foundation. We are in no position, but we're very grateful to the delegate and to the administration for working with us on that date. We think it was really important to move it forward because these reports do help inform a lot of legislation. So this would provide time before the pre-filed deadline to respond to those reports.
Thank you, sir.
Virginia League of Conservation Voters, and on behalf of Nathan with James River Association, would like to associate our comments with those of Chesapeake Bay Foundation.
All right, anyone in opposition to the bill? All right, any more comments or questions for the members of the committee? All right, I think there was a flailing at a motion. What's the motion again?
Report the substitute.
All right, moved and reported the substitute. It's been properly seconded. All those, let's go to the electronic voting board. All right, by a vote of 20 to 2, the bill is reported with substitutes. Thank you, Delegate Lovejoy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
All right, our last bill of the day is HB 1485. Delegate Freitas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. The last time I brought a bill before Agriculture, I was chastised for not bringing cake pops for everyone. I want to apologize that this time I have not brought THC for everyone. One of these days I'll learn. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, what this bill does is increases from 0.6% to 1% in the definition of industrial hemp, the maximum allowable concentration of THC in the plant, cannabis sativa. The bill allows the Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Services to destroy cannabis found to have a THC concentration greater than 1%, but only if such plant is intended for human consumption, and it reduces the application and registration requirements for any person seeking to grow, deal in, or process industrial hemp, as well as prohibiting the Board of Agriculture and Consumer Services and the Commissioner from adopting any regulation that prohibits the use of industrial hemp or hemp products in the production of any commercial feed product regulated by the board. Specifically, one of the things that we're trying to get at is we're trying to make it easier for people to engage in hemp farming within the Commonwealth. The main focus on here was to try to discuss products that were grown, produced, sold here in the Commonwealth. There's a ongoing effort by the National Association of agricultural agencies to try to get the federal government to increase theirs to 1%. I know that part might be a little bit controversial, and so we're certainly willing to entertain any potential amendments if it can actually move the bill forward. But the primary focus of this is that for those growing hemp, not for consumption, but exclusively for things like fiber, we want to make this process as easy as possible and remove licensure requirements for that specific cutout. So that's kind of a brief overview. I also have some people that can testify to this at a much higher level of technical expertise than myself, and I'll be happy to take any questions from the committee.
All right, thank you, Delegate Freitas. We do have questions for the committee. Delegate Simons.
So just to clarify, this bill would not allow hemp derivatives for human consumption, such as a store that sold Delta 8 cake pops.
I would tell the delegate, let me go ahead and, actually, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I do have someone here that can also testify this in greater specificity. Would it be all right, just so I make sure that I'm not giving any information on something specific like that I might not be able to speak to?
You want to phone a friend? Yes. Delegate Freitas.
Thank you. Unless the delegate wants that as a friendly amendment. I don't know.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I'm Jason Amatucci. I'm the president of the Virginia Hemp Coalition. And this bill only affects hemp fiber and grain, products that are made with fiber and grain. Absolutely no products, THC, edibles, or any sort of things like that. Even doesn't even affect CBD law as well.
All right. Delegate Bulova.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know under federal law, the federal government has not taken ownership of cannabis, right? And so we're kind of left on our own, but they have taken ownership of industrial hemp. And so my concern is that by saying either the federal or 1%, which is ever greater, we're actually getting ourselves out of kilter with the one thing that the federal government is weighing in on. So can you give us a little more idea of the ramifications of that? For those who farm industrial hemp, as well as where we are in that federal process, because you said they're considering it, but I don't know if that's a year away or 5 years away.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. That's correct. Again, as much as I would like to stick it to the feds on this one, if that does end up becoming a major point of contention, I would accept a friendly amendment to just keep it corresponding with what the federal level is so that we can move along the other portions of this bill, which we think would also be beneficial.
Just in the future, refer everything to the chair.
Sorry, Mr.
Delegate Ware.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think my question is probably for the gentleman who'd come up to speak, and I ask out of simply not knowing, how can we be certain the distinction between this is being grown for industrial hemp, this is being grown for other purposes?
Thank you, Delegate Ware.
So when you grow hemp for fiber and grain, it looks completely different than growing for flour. Flour in the field is going to be spread out, and you're also harvesting the fiber before it even goes to flour, as well as the grain itself, the plant goes for grain. And so this also doesn't take away the licensing procedures for VDACs. It doesn't take away the USDA has a licensing procedure. So if folks want to get licenses, they can still do that. This is just saying that we want to make it easy for our farmers. They have to go through FBI fingerprint and background checks. It's really hurting our industry. We cannot scale it up because farmers are not going to go through and jump through these hoops. We want to make this easy to grow like corn or soybeans. And we want to respect our farmers as well. They're not proven guilty before they're innocent. So we want to trust them that they're growing fiber and grain when they say they are. And this law does not affect any marijuana law or any other laws. So those still will be in effect.
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions? Delegate Lawfer.
Thank
do you
you.
want to follow up, Delegate Ware?
If I could.
Yes, Delegate Ware.
So, Mr. Chairman, as I understand the gentleman, I think what you're saying is that there are different licensures or different recognition of people who are growing it differently, as well as the physical difference in what you see in the field.
Thank you, Delegate Ware. Sir?
Yes, Mr. Chair. There is, yes. There's some people that grow it for, CBD and other things, and those licenses and those procedures have different regulations and more regulations as well. This is simple, fiber and grain, it should be grown like corn, and we're just trying to get to that point. We're not going to be able to expand our Virginia hemp industry until we can treat it more like corn for the fiber and grain industry. And this also separates it. We need to separate the two in a way as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Chair. Delegate Lawfer.
Thank you. Actually, some of my questions have already been answered. So increasing the from 0.6 to 1, is that allowing for the fiber to be used? Is it because there is a higher percentage? I'm just curious why that language, because then it feels like we're leading into something else. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So the NASDA, I can just read this. This is one of their quotes. The National Association of State Departments of Agriculture is urging Congress to undertake hemp regulation changes as one of their policy priorities for 2024. Specifically, NASDA wants Congress to raise the THC limit for legal hemp from the current 0.3 THC to 1%. Increasing the THC concentration to 1% would enable farmers to plant more seed varieties, and it also will retain limits on THC concentration while giving farmers greater assistance that their crop will be viable. So sometimes this crop can go a little bit over, and there's no reason to put our farmers at risk. And the 1%, it's going to give us some more varieties as well, cultivars.
Delegate Krizik.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a little confused here. I'm looking at lines, Mr. Chairman, lines 15 and 16, 14 and 15, I think, through 16, and it talks about human consumption. I know this is about destroying it if it goes over the 1%, but it seems to me that there's a lot, and then below you've got it, another reference to human consumption, and you had earlier testified that this is not about human consumption, so can you clarify that, please? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
This right here? Yeah, so it's saying that only if it's for human consumption will it be destroyed. So if it's for fiber and grain, there's no reason to destroy it.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry, Mr. What exactly was your question?
Is there an additional question, Delegate Krizik?
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The question was, you had testified earlier, the delegate had testified this is not about human consumption, yet there's a number of references in the bill to human consumption. I think you've explained that it's because that if it goes over 1%, then it would be destroyed if it was for human consumption.
Yeah, if it's for human consumption, it would be destroyed. That's what it's saying.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Any additional questions or comments from the committee? All right. Is anyone here in support of the bill? Let's no more than 2 minutes per person, if that's okay, Mr. Clerk. Sir.
Mr. Chair, committee, thank you for your time today. My name is Marty Phipps. I'm a board member for the Virginia Hemp Coalition. I'm also the founder of Dominion Hemp. Dominion Hemp is the largest hemp animal bedding company in the United States. And at this point in time, we have to source our material from other states due to the restrictions that currently are on our Virginia farmers. So we strongly support this bill because that fiber, even if it does test over 1%, could be utilized in the material that we sell into the animal bedding market. So there's no reason to penalize a farmer for something that can occur in nature. Having the percentage go from 6 to 1% does alleviate some of the issues that the farmers are currently having, as well as the testing. The process for a farmer to grow industrial hemp here is almost being treated as a criminal. Industrial hemp is an agricultural crop, and I urge the committee to look at this as a commodity that can be grown in the state of Virginia by our farmers, that can produce income for our farmers, that can support businesses such as myself right here in the state of Virginia. So this bill does good in a lot of ways because it ensures that this crop, even if it were to grow hot, would still go into textile materials that have really no effect because it's 1 or 2%. At the end of the day, if it is the fibers turned into a T-shirt, that's not going to have any effect if it's 1.5%. So I urge you to vote yes on this and support businesses such as myself and the Virginia farmer. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am?
Thank you, Chairman. My name is C.J. Jordan. I'm a member of the Virginia Hemp Coalition. Today, currently, we are penalizing our farmers under threat of arrest, and they are losing thousands of dollars based on their crops being destroyed. Virginia used to be the leader of industrial hemp. Today, our military, we have lots of assets, but yet they're looking at Virginia to lead. Not Pennsylvania, not Maryland, not Tennessee, not North Carolina, but Virginia. This is a states' rights issue. I understand about the federal government, but again, our farmers are being penalized because, again, there's chaos in Washington, D.C., there's no farm bill, and our farmers are not being able to grow industrial hemp. You can't get high smoking a towel. You can't get high smoking bed sheets. You can't get high off industrial hemp using toilet paper. This is not what we're talking about. We're talking about putting our farmers first. That's all we're asking, and we appreciate your vote today.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else to speak in favor? Anyone to speak in opposition to the bill?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Alexander McCauley, representing JUSHI, the Northern Virginia medical cannabis provider. I don't understand the testimony about human consumption, and certainly willing to stand corrected by legislative counsel, but the way I read 114 and 115 and line 119 is that if the hemp is below 1%, it doesn't have to be destroyed. And we certainly agree with the industrial applications of hemp, and it does have amazing applications in construction, like I said, fiber, but we've got a problem in this state with hemp products being diverted. And, y'all passed a law last year to tighten regulation of the hot hemp, the Delta 8. So it seems like there's some unintended consequences here. I mean, if this is truly about making it easier for these industrial applications of hemp and not for human consumption, I don't understand why these words human consumption are here. But like I say, we could stand corrected. I mean, maybe I just am not reading it correctly.
Okay.
But right now, I think we're opposed, and we think that this could be taking the state in the wrong direction.
All right, anyone else to speak in opposition? Let's go online now. We have one individual, Mr. McStacy, speaking in favor of the bill.
Good afternoon. Honorable members of the Senate Subcommittee on Agriculture.
House Subcommittee. House
I'm sorry. I'm sorry,
House
guys.
Full Committee.
And esteemed members of the General Assembly. I apologize. My name is Scott McStacy. I'm a registered hemp farmer in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I'm also a member of the Virginia Hemp Coalition. I am a regenerative agricultural farmer. I focus on things like regenerative agricultural concepts that include things like industrial hemp. I've cultivated hemp, experiencing firsthand the challenges and financial hardships imposed on by current regulations. And I'm standing before you today to make an impassioned plea and emboldened request for your support of House Bill 1485. House Bill 1485 represents a critical step forward in differentiating rope from dope. This legislation seeks to recognize industrial hemp for what it truly is, a crop akin to corn and cotton, not a high THC cannabis product. By increasing the THC threshold to 1% for hemp not intended for human consumption, HB 1485 offers a beacon of hope for farmers like myself. The current limit of 3.3% total THC by dry weight volume is not only arbitrary, but also restrictively low, stifling the potential for agricultural diversity and innovation. This bill's importance cannot be overstated. It is grounded in a rational approach to agriculture, untangling industrial hemp from the controversial and stigmatized web surrounding other cannabis. For over 12,000 years, humans have cultivated hemp and started in northern China and spread across continents, serving as the cornerstone of civilization and commerce.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Okay.
sir. So there's no one else online. We have people who've spoken in support and in opposition. Delegate Ware, you had a quick question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wonder if we could get somebody from VDAX to come up and just give a sort of a professional or agency oversight that for those of us who are, I guess, struggling to distinguish and understand.
Thank you, ma'am. You say your name and your title at VDAX.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Erin Williams with the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. I'm the Assistant Policy Director there, and I'm also the Industrial Hemp Program Manager. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Delegate Ware.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm not even sure I can form the right question to ask, but basically what I'm trying to understand is how this bill alters where we are today, and I guess correlatively distinguishing between, as they say colloquially, rope and dope.
Sure. Mr. Chair, Delegate Ware, as I read the proposed provisions in the bill, it changes the definition of industrial hemp. Right now, industrial hemp in Virginia is cannabis with no greater than the federally allowable limit for hemp, which is 0.3% THC. The bill would allow for industrial hemp in Virginia to be no greater than 1% THC. So that's any cannabis with no more than 1% THC would be considered hemp in Virginia.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Additional question? Delegate Weber.
Yeah, I guess when one is applying for a license to grow, they're going to grow. Are they applying for a license to grow either or? And like, so can I decide I want to just grow industrial hemp when I apply for a registration or a license? I'm gonna tell you this is what I'm growing so that it's tested to that point, right? So if I'm growing for a consumable, I would be treated differently under this legislation.
Mr. Chair, Delegate Weber, currently, VDAX issues industrial hemp grower registrations so that anyone can grow hemp, any variety of hemp, be it fiber, grain, or flour for cannabinoids. As I understand the proposed legislation, that registration wouldn't change. We don't currently ask growers or applicants to tell us what type they're going to grow. So the registration requirement exists regardless of the type that you would grow. Under this legislation, I believe that there's an allowance for individuals growing fiber and grain to be exempt from a licensing requirement.
There you go. Delegate Runyon, or do you have an additional question? Delegate Weber? No, Delegate Runyon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question would be, why is the 1% such a critical number? What happens to the plant when it exceeds 1%? How does it impact the uses, including the human consumption? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Can you answer that?
Mr. Chair, Delegate Runyon, the federal government set the limit at 0.3 THC for hemp with the idea that level of THC would not be intoxicating. There is kind of a national advocacy movement to increase the allowable THC in hemp to 1% to allow for additional varieties of hemp to be grown. It's still kind of I don't know that there's a science-based reason for that number, but I will defer to the Hemp Coalition.
Follow-up question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Delegate Runyon.
So is product in excess of 1% considered intoxicating for human consumption? Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, Delegate Runyon, I can't speak to the level of intoxication at a 1% product. Again, the legislation pertains to the crop. Currently, Virginia law establishes a separate THC concentration for products. That's no greater than 0.3 total THC.
Delegate Krizik.
Thank you. Question for the witness, Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Krizik.
Thank you. What's the administration's position on this bill?
Mr. Chair, Delegate Krizik, the administration has no position on this legislation.
Thank you.
Delegate Weber.
Question, Mr. Chair.
Delegate Weber.
Okay. So if I'm going to grow hemp, what this bill allows is, particularly just for industrial, that I don't have to register with you, correct?
Mr. Chair, Delegate Weber, that's how I'm reading it. It changes the percentage for all hemp in Virginia. Those who plan to grow a fiber variety would be exempt from registration.
Further question,
Follow
Mr. Chair?
up, Delegate Weber.
So if I'm going to grow it for a consumable, I would still have to register with you to ensure that all the appropriate regulations are still in place for if I'm growing flour for a consumable.
Mr. Chair, Delegate Weber, the registration with VDAX is simply to grow the crop. And yes, if you were going to grow a flour variety, you would have to obtain a registration to do so.
Thank you, ma'am. Delegate Orrock. We keep thinking we were getting our last person. Delegate Orrock.
Well, Mr. Chairman, the more questions, if I may, question of the patron or his tag team back there. While I'm supporting of the concept, my concern is I've heard the presentation. How does the department or anyone know that, how do you verify that it's truly being grown for the fiber versus other uses? And ergo, you've got a field of the hemp, but you're harvesting it, the department doesn't know, and we're creating a circumstance whereby it's not getting processed, it's getting sold as pot.
Mr. Chairman, I would say that it seems to me like the primary hangup with this is the increasing to 1%. I'd be very happy to strike that and just go along with whatever the federal level is going to be, because I think that would address a significant number of the questions with respect to this, if anybody wants this as an amendment. I think to the other point, with respect to the licensure associated with growing industrial hemp, the purpose was to try to make some sort of distinction between those that are growing for industrial purposes versus those are growing for consumables. And I certainly understand the concern associated with, okay, you tell me one thing, but what happens if you do another? And I think the posture that we're trying to put it in is that if we keep it at the 0.3 or we keep it at the federally appropriate level, and you say you're going for fiber, we're going to do that. If you don't, there will be a punishment for violating that, but we're not going to automatically assume that you're lying to us about what you're doing. I mean, I think that's what we're trying to get at here.
Thank you, Mr. Delegate Freitas. Delegate Tran.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to speak to the bill, and I have a motion at the appropriate time. I think that...
Delegate Tran.
Thank you. I think the patron just mentioned hearing a lot of concerns about moving to 1%. I just did some quick searching. The latest paper from the National Conference on State Legislatures shows that state laws typically define industrial hemp as having a concentration of 0.3% or less of THC. There seems, as of 2022, only one state that defined it at 1%. And oftentimes there are periods where we want Virginia to be on the cutting edge and where we want to make sure that we are practicing best practices that other states have implemented. And I think there are also concerns around a deregulation process and in terms of intent of what the product is being used to and how do we verify that. So with all of these concerns, Mr. Chair, I would like to motion to lay this bill on the table.
We have a motion to lay the bill on the table. It's been properly seconded.
Not even gently?
Gently, ever so gently, sir.
Yeah, that is not debatable. That's a recorded vote. Let's go to the electronic voting board. All right, by a vote of 12 to 10, the bill is tabled. Thank you for the presentation, Delegate Freitas.
I gently thank the committee.
So thank you. That is our work for this pre-crossover time. I want to thank everyone very, very much. I also want to thank everyone for being so collegial, and I especially want to thank our subcommittee chairs, Delegate Helmer, Delegate Tran, and Delegate Bullock for doing such amazing work. Thank you very much. We are adjourned.